Hi there, I'm Eric Wordweaver Sjerven, Gothi of the Ridgar Folk here in East Texas, and I would like to welcome you to the Raven's Call. This is a show where I ramble on about different heathen-related subjects, just kind of whatever strikes my fancy, sets my mind on fire at the time. Big UPG warning at the beginning of the episode, like always. Uh, this is just the views of one heathen here in East Texas, not the end-all, be-all of anything. I wouldn't exactly call myself an expert. But I do have a lot of seasoned experience from living the life, and so these videos are meant to be conversation starters more than anything else, just to get you kind of thinking, and sometimes to answer questions when you guys write in. So, big all of the contact information is down below. You guys can find me on there, on all the social media. I'm not real good at the social medias. But I do. I am on there, and I try to engage as best I can. Recently tried out fooling around with Snapchat. I'm on there. You can find me, Sjerven. That's ESJERVEN. Nobody's really added it yet, but I don't. It doesn't matter because there's not a whole lot for me to do on there. So it's a thing. Whatever. So on to today's subject, which. With all that communication stuff down below, there's email, there's the Facebook group. You guys can write in with questions. And today's video comes from one of those questions. Had a viewer write in. Her name was Sarah. I'm going to omit any of the particular personal information simply for respect of Sarah's wishes and everything. But I do want her to know that I did get your email, and that's what this is about. Now, Sarah writes in with a very particular issue that I think a number of heathens in today's society have run afoul of, and it's a difficult thing. I've talked a lot on the channel about protecting your Innengarth, about family, about tribe, about hearth, and with that comes a certain amount of protecting yourself from toxic individuals and protecting your hearth from them, protecting your tribe from them, but largely protecting yourself from them. I did a lot of work in the foster care system, and a lot of what we do with the foster care kids was trying to teach them to recognize toxic individuals in their lives and who they need to distance themselves from in order to protect themselves going forward. It's a difficult thing, especially when what you're dealing with isn't so cut and dry. When you're dealing with heathenry, which is very family-centric, very family-focused, and one of those toxic individuals happens to be a family member. Not just a family member, but like a key family member who should be a key factor in your Innengarth. How do you deal with that? Where do you go with that? And that's a very, very difficult thing. Now, this particular question was, how do you go about cutting out a toxic family member without damaging your orlog? Man, it's a touchy subject, largely because it is still family. It's still someone that you can't deny that they're family, and it's somebody that has a heavy role to play in that person's life. Now, in this particular scenario, the individual in question is a father. And the issue is that this person's been fairly rejecting of Sarah and her situation in general. Not just the heathenry thing. The family member is actually not aware of the fact that they're heathen. But they come from a particular religious background that's not particularly open. And therefore, even if that did come forward, that would largely be a problem. The toxicity comes from just a general rejection from conception. And unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about that. One of the things in therapy that we try to get people to understand is that you can't fix somebody else. You can only fix yourself. And so when you've got someone who is that key figure, and they are toxic and they are rejecting, all you can really do is protect yourself going forward, worried about your own health, your own well-being. That comes with a certain amount of guilt when it comes to a heathen that then has to try and deal with that. How do you deal with the fact that this father figure who is supposed to be, this cornerstone of the family, and they just out and out reject you and fill your life with toxicity. And what do you do with that? And at surface level, it looks like this is a very difficult situation because of them being family, them being part of the Inengarth, and how to reconcile all of that. But there is, when you look into frith, we talked about frith before, and I've talked about frith a number of times on the channel. The key cornerstone to frith is the reciprocal obligation between the two individuals. And failure to uphold frith can lead to a breakdown of that frith. Normally, when we're talking about these things within terms of tribe and whatnot, you end up with an individual who is maybe a tribe member, maybe someone who is a close and dear friend who's looking at becoming tribe or whatever, and then things go toxic and you have to distance yourself from that individual and protect your hearth, and you have to protect your family, you have to protect your tribe by distancing yourself from this person. The way the frith web works is when they fail to uphold their end of the bargain, when they fail to uphold their obligation within this relationship, they have damaged or out and out destroyed frith. And as such, cutting them out then becomes a responsibility on your end, not just a self-preservation thing, not just, it's the thing that you need to do to protect yourself and those people that matter the most to you. Because if you leave that toxicity in there, it can cause lasting damage to you and those around you. It damages the well. You pour a lot of negativity into your well, and then that can affect your luck going forward. So you have to protect yourself. You have to protect those around you, and you have to keep a head on your shoulders. Your own mental health is at risk when you are unnecessarily staying in a toxic relationship. And this is true for all sorts of toxic relationships. The first thing that I can recommend in a situation like this is therapy. See a licensed professional counselor who can help you deal with the emotions and everything that goes along with it, because it is a complex situation. It is not something that's simple. Sometimes it's something that can be worked through, especially if this is an individual who might be open to working with these things and working around it. That's going to be my first recommendation in any situation like this, simply because it is the complexity of human interaction, and it is important. This is not something that you can simply take a YouTube video and go, oh, well, now I know what to do and everything's fixed. It's not that easy. It is a situation where you probably need to see someone, even if it's not to fix the situation, but to be right with yourself in the decisions that you need to make, and have a good, firm understanding of what you need to do in order to protect yourself, your mental health, and your own well-being in these kind of situations. See someone, get some assistance. It's not a sign of weakness to seek out this kind of help. It's actually a sign of strength, because if you're a warrior and you know you're going to go into battle, you don't complain about your weakness, you get stronger. You work and you do what you need to do to make yourself physically capable of handling the battle ahead. If you have fought and you have failed, then you know where your weaknesses are and you step forward, you fix that. You train harder, you work harder, you fix whatever weakness you may feel like you have, or wherever you feel like you need to be stronger and where your skills need to be more adept. Same thing with any skill that you might acquire. You don't get better at it simply by thinking about it or by complaining about it. You get better by doing the work, and that's a sign of strength. The strength of will to step forward and do what you need to do. Endure the hardship, ordeal breeds worth, and stepping up and doing the work that's needed to strengthen yourself. So in that respect, going to therapy and doing these kind of things is actually a sign of inner strength and the ability to recognize that you need a trainer to help you train up that part of your mind and your soul that will help you to be stronger going forward, so that you can operate from a place of strength instead of a position of weakness or in a reactionary position. You can be a proactive advocate for your own mental health and own well-being. So Highly recommend seeing someone for therapy. This is not the kind of thing where it's a medication kind of thing. You need to go get on meds or whatnot. No, it's not that kind of thing. It's a see a therapist, talk it through, figure out where you stand, and figure out what's important to you and what you need to do, what you can do for your own mental health. All of that aside, because that is first and foremost the thing that I have to recommend in any of these kind of situations. When you're dealing with these kind of things, highly recommend seeing a therapist that is a good therapist. First off, they should be accepting of you unconditionally. They should meet you where you're at. And there's going to be, for heathens, there's going to be a breakdown because they don't understand the worldview. Their view of shame and guilt are different than from a heathen standpoint. They're honestly going to use a different definition of shame than what we utilize in heathenry, because heathenry is a shame-based culture, wherein dealing with a social structure, social pressures are placed on to correct behaviors for the betterment of the tribe as a whole. Westernized, modern Western therapy is not geared towards this. So you have to understand that going in, and understand that there's going to be certain things that they're just not going to get. Now, you can, if they're a good therapist, they'll go out and educate themselves on your worldview, because it will strengthen them as a therapist to be able to help more people. And it's a cultural awareness thing. You know, you hear a lot about cultural sensitivity and things like that. Well, there's not a whole lot about cultural sensitivity with regards to heathens, because most people don't even know we exist, let alone that we have significantly different cultural mores, different views on ethics and morality and shame, guilt, all of these things. The heathen worldview is very different from the modernized Western worldview, and that makes it difficult for a therapist sometimes to connect. So you've got to find somebody who's willing to work with you and who is willing to learn from you and about you and your culture, so that they can help you where you are. So keep that in mind going forward. Now, back to the frith web thing. Given that you engage in the therapeutic aspect of everything and find yourself operating from a position of strength, then you can look at the reciprocal obligation of the frith web. How much has this individual failed the reciprocal obligation that is the cornerstone of the frith web? How much has this individual betrayed that? How much have they damaged that? And will they continue to do so in the future? How much of a threat are they to the well-being of your frith web going forward? If they are a significant threat, then cutting that person out doesn't actually damage your orlog. What it does is it protects your weird going forward. You have inherited the orlog that has come from this individual. That is going to manifest itself in a number of ways. What you're actually getting from a situation like that frequently is negative orlog. You're getting anxiety, you're getting depression, negative self-view. There's a lot of things that are lumped into where we operate from psychologically that are inherited and are part of our orlog. I attribute a lot of this to just the development and trajectory of Western society and the way that they have built and developed the zeitgeist of today. It's not... There's a lot of unhealthiness in the way that the world operates right now. Deviation from family units, not to say like traditional family units, but the importance of family, whatever family may look like to you. That has been eschewed in favor of rugged individualism to an extreme. And this rugged individualism to an extreme results in individuals being cut off from support structures that they really need. Now, modern therapy does get this. They understand the need for social structure, for support, especially when it comes to young adults. Males are probably the worst about this. Especially when they get into a relationship. Maintaining any kind of support structure socially outside of that relationship becomes difficult. There's a big push to completely give yourself over to a relationship and not to maintain that outside network of friends, relations that are your go-to people. And they're important. You need them there, because if the individual that you're having problems with is the one that you're sharing a home with, you need to be able sometimes to go to someone from the outside and just voice it, so that you can talk through it and rationalize it and begin to understand where you're coming from in your own regards, in your own space. This is going back to the temporal versus spatial heathenry from before. We're looking at a spatial awareness, that is around you, living in the moment. The development of your Innengat and those people around you that are to help and support you and to be there for you, and that you are there for them, this reciprocal relationship that you have, you've got to maintain that. And so that's something that's very eschewed in Western society. But therapists do get the importance of a social structure that is highly recognized within the psychological world of today, the importance of social structure and the deficits that are faced by young adults, particularly males, or even advanced adults. It's really bad in advanced adults because we no longer engage in a lot of these social activities that we did when we were younger, thusly limiting our social circle. You want a limited social circle because you want actual friends, you want actual people that you can have meaningful relationships with. But Western society pushes it almost to an extreme, and we end up with individuals who are islands in a sea of islands. And it's a complex thing. But when you're dealing with a family member that does indeed betray frith and damage it to a point that it is irreparable, it becomes your obligation to step away from that relationship and to focus on those that are meaningful to you, that are positive influences in your life. It's not, especially when you're dealing with somebody who's like a father, if you've got a positive relationship with the mother, then distancing from the father then suddenly becomes much more complex, because if they're still part and parcel, you end up with a situation that is tempestuous at best. You have to find your balance. Now, if it's one where you don't have a relationship with either one, or that relationship has been damaged, because even if the mother hasn't done anything in particularly damaging to frith, through her actions, she may have done so through inaction and failure to protect you, etc., etc. And that is her responsibility as a mother, just like the father's responsibility not to, poison your well. You begin to have to weigh these things as well in the grand scheme of what are you letting into your well, what waters are you adding to your well, and how is this affecting your luck going forward. Maintaining a relationship with that toxic individual because of the mistaken idea that you have to have, that it has to be family, it has to be blood, and that your obligation holds regardless of their upholding of the obligation. This is indeed a mistaken idea, because it is reciprocal. You are owed certain things as the child of these individuals, and if they fail to uphold that, then you have to do what's necessary to protect yourself going forward, to operate again from that position of strength. Now, a lot of times what can happen in these situations is they can be worked through. Most of the issues that I find coming from this are issues of communication, and through proper communication and understanding of one another, you can bridge that gap. You can fix things. Not always. Not always. There are a number of times that I've seen where individuals really did need to distance from parental units because of toxicity, because of the issues that the parents brought to the table, their own orlog, that they are enacting through their weird, and continuing this cycle. They poison the well for the children going forward, and the children have to separate themselves and leave the nest, fly free as it were, in order to put positive things into their well and begin to overcome those negatively charged waters that are being poured into the well. You can't cut yourself off completely from the orlog that you've inherited, but you begin to be able to work with it and try to develop something going forward. A great deal of therapy in modern time is dealing with orlog. That's I'd say 90% of it is processing and synthesizing orlog in such a way that you are able to operate from a position of strength and agency going forward to put positive, strong waters into the well, and to develop your life going forward in such a way that you will be able to be happy, healthy, whole heathen. So with an individual like this, cutting yourself off from them doesn't actually damage your orlog. What it does is it creates a barrier. You're putting up a dam that is cutting off a flow of negativity into your well, and that protects you going forward. It doesn't undo anything that's been done before. All of that is there, and it is in the well, and you cannot separate it and take it out. It is part of you. It is part of what you've inherited. What you can do from that is accept that it is there, and then operate from a position of strength to begin to process that, synthesize it, and learn how going forward you can minimize the damage. You can figure out what waters you do need to put into the well in order to counteract the negativity that has been poured into it up to this point. Again, it's a therapy thing. Therapy, the relationship of therapy to orlog is like this. I mean, it's there. That's what it's all about. And so going forward, when you put that wall up, when you dam up that negativity that's flowing into the well, you cut off the new flow of negativity, and you allow yourself the ability to then dilute that and to strengthen yourself in your position of operation in order to function as a whole human being going forward. It's hard. It really is. It's hard stuff, and nothing is more difficult than dealing with negative orlog inherited from family. You know, we look at deeds, we look at actions, and we look at what these people have done and what we've inherited from them and what we owe them as a result, because if they hadn't made the choices that they made, we wouldn't be who we are today. We owe that to our ancestors going back. Even if your ancestors aren't heathen, if they are from other religions, big book religions, whatever, you've still inherited who you are and where you come from them. You do not share the same views. You are not beholden to like the things they like, or even to be a person that they would necessarily like, but you still inherit that. You still owe them for that, and you owe them respect for that. But respecting them for that also means keeping things in context as far as what you actually owe them. You do not owe them the skein of your life, as it were. You are to live your own life, and you are to be as happy and healthy as you can be. And once things settle and we sit at feast in the mound, that's the thing that they're going to smile about, is that you were able to find your happiness once we are, not dealing with all the drama on Midgard at that point. Seek your happiness. That's the number one thing that I can say there. And seek your safety, your mental health, your well-being. You've got to do what's necessary in those respects, and sometimes that is distancing yourself from an individual who is toxic and who is poisoning your well and is pouring enough negativity in there that you are looking at very serious outcomes going forward, very negative outcomes that can be lasting and compounding. So, my answer to the question, Sarah, is, of course, therapy. See somebody. Highly recommend. You would be surprised at how empowering it is once you get through the mental blocks that get in the way of it. A lot of people that they go to therapy and feel like they don't benefit from therapy. A lot of times it's because they go in with a mindset that they don't really need it, and they're looking for confirmation bias. They'll take any failure to understand them, any kind of misstep by the therapist as justification for their mental standpoint that, they don't need therapy, they don't need this, it's a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of weakness. Like I said before and enumerated for you, it's actually a sign of strength. You are the individual that knows that training is tough and that, you've got to hurt if you are to heal. So back to the never-ending story. Has to hurt if it is to heal. And that is true, unfortunately. And in this, like I've said before, ordeal breeds worth. And by stepping up and doing the work and going through it, even though it is painful and is difficult, you increase your worth going forward. You are someone who is able to handle it in a way that will be strong going forward. You'll be an individual that people can look to and say, they were even able to deal with that, so I know they can help me with this. And you yourself will know that you are strong enough to be of value and worth to the individuals around you that do matter. those individuals that do feed positivity back into your life, that are there for you, that are there with you. You have worth. The Havamal, not to be... Havamal thumpers bother me because they try to treat it almost like Bible verses, but there is still some good advice in there. And there are several stanzas in there about people being of worth, that no man is without worth. Let the lame ride a horse kind of thing. You find your spot, you do what you can, and you are worthy. You just have to recognize your own worth and then actualize it, build upon it, and go forward. You've got this. You can do this. So seek out your social structure. Seek out those people that are there for you, that are positive, that are supporting. If you don't have them, you need to start finding and building that tribe, those people that are going to be there with you and help you through the situation and support you as you go along. It's not like go out and instantly find somebody. It's not like instant ramen. You don't just add water and then boom, social structure. It takes time and it takes judgment, and there will be failures. You will end up with individuals that are not positive, that are toxic individuals that you have to cut out. Again, we do a lot of cutting out of negative people in our lives as we go forward. And it's just, that's life in the modern world, working with what we have to work with and dealing what we have to deal with. You do what you can and you keep going. But yes, in answer to your question specifically, Sarah, you need not worry so much about separating from this toxic family member and it damaging your orlog. It's actually going to strengthen your weird going forward. Your orlog is inherited. You have what you have. All you can do is try and mitigate the damage of negative orlog, and you can't help the fact that you may inherit negative orlog. Most of us have at least some. It's a mixture of both. There's good things and there's bad things. And this individual probably has had a mixed impact on your life, I imagine. There's probably been some positive stuff as well as a lot of negative stuff. And when the negative way outweighs the positive, then you have to make the painful decision to cut off that flow, or at least to dam it up and try to mitigate damage going forward. So, yeah, hopefully that helps a little bit. Hopefully that helps you understand kind of where I'm coming from. Man, I wish there were more heathen therapists out there that could help people and deal with these kind of situations, because it is orlog. It is dealing with the inherited negativity and finding a way going forward to operate from that place of strength and agency. You absolutely can. And yes, I do recommend protecting yourself, putting up the shield wall if you need to, and keeping out those negative toxic influences that are going to damage your ability to protect yourself going forward. And you never know. It doesn't necessarily have to be one of those things where you completely cut this individual out of your life. You may find that distancing for a while, damming that up temporarily, and finding the time and doing the work to operate from your own position of strength, you may grow strong enough that you can actually re-explore that relationship going forward, where you are not operating from a position of weakness or a lesser position, but more equal footing, because you are your own person. Especially as an adult, you are your own person with your own feelings, your own needs, your own deeds, your own actions. And they need to see that. You may find strength enough to be able to step into that relationship again and try something different. Not being the child in the eyes, but being an equal and finding a relationship there. You may not. I don't know. I don't know enough about your particular situation to be able to say, and I would never have the audacity to say this is what you need to do, because I'm not there. I don't know. I have the limited amount of information that's given to me in an email, and it's a limited amount of information on a very complex subject. But hopefully these answers have given you an operating point that you can kind of re-examine some things going forward, and hopefully it's helped some other people see that, it's not just cut and dry. It's not, just because they're family, you have to maintain this relationship. No, it's absolutely not that. It may be your obligation to your hearth going forward to cut these individuals out, distance yourself, put up protective wards, whatever it is that you need to do in order to protect you and yours. It's a thing. So Please do write in, folks. Let me have whatever questions you may have. If it's something that I'm able to help out with, I absolutely will try and do. If it's just something I can give some heathen context for you so that you can then rethink a situation from a different kind of point of view. There's a lot of people who are working on developing their heathen worldview and don't necessarily have it down yet. A lot of the baggage that we deal with when it comes to these kind of things are a mixture of oversimplifying things, seeing, family has to be, maintained. This has to be this thing because heathenry is family oriented, blah, blah, blah. That is a strong element of it, but it does not mean that you have to maintain toxic relationships and do yourself harm trying to maintain an ideal that was never enumerated in any kind of edict or stricture. Human interactions, human relationships are complex things. Trying to fit them into a system of checks and balances and if that, then this doesn't really work. You've got to be fluid. You've got to be able to work with what you have. You need to be like the water going into the well. You need to recognize where you can flow and where you can't, what's going to pollute you and what is not. And then make decisions and take actions accordingly. So, best of luck to you in this particular situation. And folks, like I said, write in with questions, anything that I can help with. If you've got something you just need a heathen spin on, shoot it my way and I'll see what I can do with it, okay? Hopefully this has been helpful, insightful. Do take away from this that I am definitely a proponent for responsible therapy, finding a good therapist, and somebody who is willing to work with you and educate themselves about you and your ways, that is going to get to know you and help you where you are. Understanding they are human too, and therefore it is not going to be an instantaneous thing. It is going to take some time to establish a therapeutic relationship, which takes a little while to develop in and of itself, and for them to really get you, because you are going to be something of a culture shock to them if they don't get it, if they don't understand. If they fail to respect you and your ways, and they try to push Judeo-Christian viewpoints, or if they try to push their particular worldview on you, then it may be time to explore a different professional, because this individual may not be for you. They are humans, they are people, but they are well trained, most of them, in respects of these human interactions and how to help people develop the coping skills that they need, help them sort through their own minds and their own complex emotions going through these things, so that they themselves, you, the individual going to therapy, can operate from a position of strength. That's their goal, is to give you all the tools that you need to be able to do it for yourself. They can't fix it for you. They're not going to try and fix it for you, but they may be able to arm you with the arsenal that you need to wage this war, to set into this battle and come out victorious on the other side. But you are the one that's going to have to do the work, and you are the one that's going to have to fight the fight. That's as simple a metaphor as I can boil it down to. So hopefully this was of some interest and help to people. If not, let me know as well. Feel free to bandy about in the comment section or on the Facebook group. If you've had your own experiences and how you've dealt with them, there may be people that find benefit hearing other heathens and how they have dealt with these situations and come out positively on the other side. Do keep in mind that what works for one person is not going to necessarily work for everybody. And people will frequently say they're doing better than they actually are because they need to tell themselves that. It's a form of denial. It's a mask that they put on. So be choosy. Do use your rational thinking. Exercise your mind, and you will see that some of these people will give advice that's not good advice. They think they're doing okay, but what they're actually doing is perpetuating negative patterns that really need to be broken, and they just don't realize it yet. But they will be loud and vocal about it, saying that their way is the best way and you just have to do this. And it's like, no. If it doesn't seem right for you, it's probably not. Try something different. Just keep that in mind going forward, but hopefully this has been of some kind of help. In the meantime, hail to you all. Thank you. May your hearth fires burn bright. Okay, let's give this a shot. see what we've got now. Yeah, for the after credit stuff. This is my new rig, so I'm trying desperately to figure it out. Hopefully, sorry about the noise, this is gonna work out okay. We'll see. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Anyway, life is trucking along just fine as normal. Yeah, hard to tell which way is up these days from working non-stop in and out. Now, you know, I haven't had a chance to do D&D in like 3 months. It's crazy. Adult D&D is difficult to make work, but I am still doing what I can to keep my tribe together. I know a lot of you guys are having the same trouble, but you know, we did a video conference with the tribe this past weekend, and that was really nice. When you can't get everybody together, at least you can video conference and at least have some FaceTime. But it is difficult these days in a lot of ways to try and make things work. But we're doing. We're trucking along doing what we can. So, yeah. I don't really have a whole lot for the post-credits right now. We'll see here coming up what I can come up with. But, yeah. Playing a lot on my Switch. Metroid Dread, awesome game, love it, love it, love it, love it. Having a lot of fun with it. So highly recommend for anybody that's on the Switch and likes a Metroidvania style game. They really nailed it on this one. I love it. It's kind of short, but doesn't matter. I'm still enjoying every minute of it, and yeah, I highly recommend. Anyway, we'll go ahead and jump into today's video. So we're live in 3, 2, 1. Let's jam.